Hey there! If you're watching this video, you're probably wondering if the relationship you're in is a healthy one or a trauma bond. Today, I'm gonna share the difference between the two. Hi, my name is Petya and I'm a Certified NLP Coach. I myself have been in a trauma bond relationship for 7 years. Today, I'm gonna talk to you like the friend I wish I had years ago to save me time and nerves. Okay, let's get started. Sign number one that you're in a trauma bond instead of a healthy relationship is that when things are good, they're so good. You see, in healthy relationships, you have predictability, while in a trauma bond, you have an emotional roller coaster. You have the highest highs and the lowest lows. And that's because if you're being mistreated constantly and your partner stops abusing you for a while, the brain releases feel-good chemicals. So it feels very intense. And the thing is also known as intermittent reinforcement, which is a thing in gambling. And basically what you're experiencing is an addiction. Sign number two, you think you just need to communicate better in order for your partner to understand you and to have less fights. But the thing is, in a healthy relationship, both partners have interest in resolving conflict. So both ends will work equally as hard to do that. While in a trauma bond, one partner does all the heavy lifting. So there's often a pattern of deliberate misunderstanding to maintain control. So whenever there's communication issues and they're not being fully resolved, you're being the one to blame, and so you start feeling guilty and you start shrinking in order to resolve the conflict. But it never really gets resolved. It's just the partner maintaining dominance and power over you. Sign number three, you think that no one else would understand what you have, and you're living more or less in isolation because if you share with friends and family, you know that they wouldn't approve the way your partner speaks to you. For example, when I was in a trauma bond relationship, there were instances where my partner would call me incapable or incompetent, and I felt immense shame. I could not bear myself to go to my friends and say how he spoke to me, because truth is, I wasn't ashamed of him. I was ashamed that he would speak to me in this way and I would stay in the relationship. I knew that if I shared that, I had to do something about it and actually leave the relationship because this was unhealthy. And that's a sure sign that something is majorly off. Okay, sign number four. You know exactly what will set your partner off and you're constantly walking on eggshells. Even though a person who told me my partner complained that I was breathing too loud. You see, even something so small or something so seemingly normal could set off a partner in a trauma bond relationship. And they could become angry, they could start having a fight, they could throw a tantrum, and you feel just so powerless and so stressed around them. You're walking on eggshells, you're trying to prevent anything that can happen, but you don't know what will set them off. You're just trying to predict it, and your brain is constantly working on surviving. This is what keeps you stuck in a relationship like that, because you keep shrinking and you're afraid to express yourself because you think that it's your fault that they're getting angry. Sign number five, it's a trauma bond. You think that if you leave, you'll be alone forever. Or in other words, you are terrified about losing your partner. That's why you keep tolerating this behavior that's so unacceptable and so diminishing. Because your partner has likely spent months reinforcing how much not enough you are if you're not with them, how much you owe to them, that no one will ever love you like they do, no one will accept you because you're flawed, because there's something wrong with you, you're fundamentally broken, or anything like that. They have trained you that without them, you're nothing. And so you're left believing that if you leave, you will not be able to survive without them. This is actually the fear of abandonment and what an infant feels if they're going to be abandoned. You see, the threat of rejection activates your most primitive survival instincts. And this is the explanation of why logic alone is not enough to break free. It's an intense emotion that you're feeling. It's instinct, it's survival. It's not your fault. Sign number 6. You justify your partner's behavior because they've been through so much as a kid. And I understand, because my partner also came from a dysfunctional family. So I would think, oh, but it's not his fault. He had a tough childhood and he's been through so much. If I'm a bit more understanding, if I'm a bit more patient, he will probably change. He's a good person. I know he is. And you see, I'm an empathetic person. I'm sure if you're in a trauma bond, you are too. It's just the nature of who you are. You understand people, you feel this warmth, you want to help them. And I get it. But being an empathetic person should not come at the expense of being abused. Like, it's not your job to fix your partner. Yes, sure, they've been through trauma and it's unpleasant and it must have sucked. But now they're an adult and they have a choice. They have a choice to heal. They can go to a therapist. They could rewire their behavioral patterns, their thinking patterns. And if they're using you as a punching bag, I mean that figuratively, hopefully, that's not an excuse. I mean, it's not an excuse to treat another human being like that just because they've been through shit. I'm sorry. It's just not. And if you know their childhood story better than your own, and if you put their needs first instead of your own, then that's a problem. And studies show that abusive people have often experienced trauma, but here's the thing, so have also non-abusive people. So again, that's not an excuse to act the way they're acting, especially to someone who is trying to help them and be there for them all the time. I'm just gonna say this saying, the sentence that I remember. There were 2 sons who one became an alcoholic, the other one became super successful, and they asked them, why did you become an alcoholic and why did you become so successful? The alcoholic answered, because of my dad, and the successful son answered, because of my dad. So basically what I'm trying to say is, you as a person, they as a person, they always have a choice and they can make the right choice, or they could be abusive. So if they're abusive because of their childhood trauma, it's not your responsibility to fix them. It's not your job to endure this behavior. You have a duty, and it's to get out of that dynamics because it's hurting you. Okay, sign number 7. You don't even know who you are anymore, because the most devastating difference is that trauma bonds erase your personality. Why? Because it's threatening to a partner who wants to keep control over you. If you have your own opinion, if you have your personality, if you have your own interests, because those are things that are not dependent on them, so they can't control you if you have this. If your personality is erased and if your partner is the center of your universe, it's much easier for them to tell you what to do because you have nothing else to do. So it only makes sense. But it's also very painful because you become less of yourself. Your spark is dimmed, you lose your motivation, you start questioning your own reality, and you become what psychologists in schema therapy will call an extension of your partner. I've been told by my cognitive behavioral psychologist that I was living as an extension of my partner, and so it felt to me like I didn't even have my own life. And I was so frustrated because I felt like I didn't have a choice. And here's something crucial I want you to remember. You always have a choice, even if it seems like you don't, even if the situation seems completely hopeless, you always have a choice. So I know it may be hard to see that right now, but you do. And you can find your way out of this. Breaking free, it's not about willpower. So if you're struggling to get out of this toxic dynamic, it's not your fault. you've tried to leave, you have gone back to them, that doesn't mean you're weak. You're fighting one of the strongest biochemical attachments that humans can form. Leaving a trauma bond, it's not about willpower. It's about getting the right support to rewire your nervous system. So this is also where neurolinguistic programming comes into play, because unlike traditional therapy that might take years, NLP can create immediate shifts in your emotional responses by breaking automatic trauma responses that are pulling you back. Also by creating independent sources or anchors of safety and validation that you've been previously seeking from your partner. So instead of seeking for external validation from them and being dependent on their mood and on their opinion, you'll be able to find that validation within yourself. Lastly, NLP rewires the neural pathways that have been formed during the relationship. With that, I also want to quickly say what real love actually feels and looks like, so you have a perspective. And since you've been in a trauma bond, you'll most likely have no clue what real love should be like. But it should be about consistency. So the words of your partner should match their actions, and their affection should not disappear randomly. You should just feel very secure when you're with them. Then there's peace. Your nervous system shouldn't feel constantly threatened. Instead, it should feel safe, and you should be able to relax without having any knots in your stomach. You should have space to express yourself, your opinions, your needs, what you want. You should be able to make mistakes and not be judged for them. Then there's freedom. You should be also able to see friends, have your own interests and hobbies, and just something outside of this relationship. It should not be something consuming so everything else disappears. Also, there should be, number 4, mutual effort. You shouldn't feel like you're chasing your partner or bending backwards for them. Instead, both of you should take responsibility for the relationship as an entity, because I've said before in other videos, when you're in a relationship, you have 3 entities. You have yourself, you have your partner, and you have the relationship as an entity where you both work together. Okay? And lastly, there should be growth. The relationship should help you become more of yourself, not less. It should help you expand, not shrink. I must say that a lot of people I've spoken with, after they have left toxic relationships, they have said they feel an immense sense of relief. But also something more interesting is that they feel like a normal relationship, a healthy relationship, feels almost boring, because you see, there are no emotional roller coasters, and traumatized people or people who have left toxic relationships, they feel like, oh, when's the next fight coming, And in a healthy relationship, it just doesn't. So that's a surprising thing. As final words, I would like to say that if you're in a trauma bond, please know you're not alone. I know how isolating and devastating this may feel, but you're not alone. You matter. Your attachment to this person is not a reflection of love. It's a reflection of your unhealed wounds and your brain that got you into this bond due to old patterns. In order for you to leave, you should start becoming more of your own person and pay attention to yourself. But it's very hard to do that on your own. I highly recommend that you contact a licensed professional, either a cognitive behavioral therapist or an NLP coach, and work with them to break the old patterns that are keeping you stuck in an abusive cycle. Despite what your partner has programmed you to believe, you absolutely deserve better. You're worthy and you matter. And I see you and I wish the best for you. You deserve the absolute best you can get. A life of real love and peace is waiting on the other side of this pain. You can do this, and I believe in you. Thank you for watching.